not easy to go out there and go to war with your mindset. Like, and I say go to war, like the shit that we say to ourselves is absurd. And if you talk to other people the way you talk to yourself, you have zero friends.
Right.
But so we live life like things are happening to us when really we're the agent, we're the cause. We've caused it by the virtue of our thinking.
Welcome to the Push Podcast. Why push? Because a nudge is just too friendly.
And friend, we're here to help you get your shit together. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Janelle.
And we're the Copelands.
We've got 3 daughters, 2 businesses, a mortgage, and lots of responsibilities. So just like you, we're struggling to find that perfect balance of ambitious go-getter hustle while still staying present, loving our kids, and working on our relationship.
And doing the laundry, going to the grocery store. Oh, and don't forget being mindful.
Yeah, all of the stuff. So if you're juggling all the things, but you're also trying to get to the next level, guess what? You're in the right place. So get ready to be pushed. Hey guys, welcome back to the Push Podcast with Janelle and Eddie.
Hello there.
This is episode number 28, and you are in for a ride. I don't know, based on where this conversation is going to go, if I'm going to call this episode The Shit You Say to Yourself, but I think that's where we're going to start.
How you become the enemy to yourself.
Right. And so I want to introduce you to our special guest for today. She's one of my good friends. Her name is Adele Tevlin. She is from Toronto, Canada. She's the founder of Adele Wellness, a premium weight loss consultancy for high-performance professionals with demanding lifestyles. She works with CEOs and C-suite executives to help them push past their BS in order to produce profound results. She's a behavioral expert and pattern interrupter that uses a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy, neuroscience, and psychology to ensure that clients achieve their transformation and breakthroughs and stay committed to the things that they're trying to achieve in their lives. She's also a mom to a super handsome 3, almost 4-year-old boy. She's engaged to marry the love of her life in June. She's beautiful, she's smart, and if she wasn't already enough, holding her BS in neuropsychology, a certificate in cognitive behavioral therapy, and a diploma in applied holistic nutrition, she's now pursuing her dream of obtaining her master's in psychology at Harvard University, you guys. What the heck? Adele's superpower. You don't talk yet because I'm still going about you. Adele's superpower is that she helps people see their blind spots, which everybody needs help with that, right?
Yeah.
That's massive self-awareness right there. And she helps them break their behaviors and routines in order to get out of their own way so they can accomplish their goals. So welcome, Adele. Thank you so much for being here.
Wow.
Hi, guys.
That is a lot.
That's
all in my free time.
Yeah. Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
So I got to tell you this really quick. Eddie gets super uncomfortable when it's his birthday and we sing happy birthday because he's like, where do I look? What do I do? Imagine sitting there through like a 3-minute bio like that. I could just see his uncomfortable face.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
I've started to just embrace it now. Now I just say, yes, bring it on. Because that's the only way it works. Otherwise, it just feels like people are singing at me.
Yeah. And it's also just like hearing it back at you. You're like, wow, right? Like all the growth. Because when you're in your life, you don't see it from a different perspective. But when you get your bio back and you're like, wow, I have accomplished all that. Because I'm my worst enemy too. Like the shit I say to myself, right? So sometimes it's like when you hear it back from someone, you're like, wow, I have achieved all these things. I'm living a life in alignment. That wasn't always the case. Like, and all this kind of beautiful stuff. So thank you for saying that because it just grounded me and like, wow, yeah, like this is my life. It's pretty
I've done
awesome.
some shit.
I've done some shit. Totally.
That's amazing.
So I think we're going to go out of the gates with what you said. And I'm a little disappointed. Yeah. Like, let me give you why. We interviewed our pastor and he's a little older and he said he still struggles with like comparison. He still struggles with self-doubt. And I was like, damn it doesn't get better with age. And then you've got all these like degrees and certificates and you're saying you still sometimes are the worst enemy of yourself. Please help us with that.
100%. So, okay, what a great way to start. So here's the thing. Your narrative is never going anywhere because your narrative is part of the ego part of your mind, the limbic system. And I love talking about this because this is a podcast in and of itself. So you have an ego. So the ego is the part of your mind that says, you're not enough, you're not safe, you got to do more, comparison, judgment, fear. And we all have it. The ego actually lives in the part of your brain called the default mode network. So the thing is that the more work you do on yourself, the more mindset work, the more awareness, the more mindfulness, you're able to quiet the voice. It becomes more of a whisper, and you're able to still act even when you hear the voice. But for a lot of people who haven't even delved into this kind of work, they think that their ego is them. And when you start to do the work, you're taking a different seat of awareness. Like now when I hear myself be critical, which is not as much as like it used to be, but it's just part of my humanity. So I actually always just embrace my humanity and my imperfections. And that's one of them where it's not enough. I got to do more. I got to be more. Oh, heart. Okay. That's my thing. My shtick is like, I got to be more, do more. Okay.
That's my shit too.
Yeah. It's like a super achiever on steroids. And when the more work I do in this realm of, I call it science and spirituality, marrying those two, which is sort of my thing, my gift, is I'm able to say, I understand that's my ego and it's not who I really am. The source and the truth of who I really am is whole, perfect, and complete. But as we grow up, so 0 to 7, those formative years, this is really important. When we're 0 to 7 years of age, the only part of our mind that's awake is our subconscious mind. We don't have a thinking mind, a critical thinking mind. We just have this subconscious mind. And that's when all of our subconscious patterning get formed, 0 to 7 years of age, from our mom and our dad. Okay. What I mean by that, and this is like highlight, bold this, like this is probably the most important thing I can say.
Listen up.
Listen up. Our programming happened when we were 0 to 7 years of age, before we had the part of our mind that could say, I agree or disagree. So what I mean by that is my mom and my dad raised me, and they're not perfect, but they did as much as they could, right? But I inherited certain beliefs from my mom and certain beliefs from my dad, both consciously and subconsciously. And that has created and shaped my identity, quote unquote. So when you're talking about limiting beliefs and patterns and why do we still run those things when we know we shouldn't run those things, and how come your pastor is like this evolved human and he still has this background? Because that is part of our conditioning and patterning at the level of the subconscious mind that was developed between the ages of 0 and 7. Now, the good news is that we can rewrite that and rewire it. But for most people, they don't even know this to be true. They just think that their identity is fixed and stable. Like, how many people say to me, well, I am the way I am, Adele, right?
Oh, God,
I am the way I am. And it's like, no, you are the way you are based on those beliefs.
And
but
you
those
choose
beliefs,
that.
And you choose those beliefs. You choose to believe those beliefs. But we're talking about how many people go through life, and I call them, they're unconscious. They're not conscious to all these other things going on, like their patterning and their subconscious beliefs and the voices in their head, right? So that's to answer your question, like that voice is never going away. It's just more like, how quickly can you interrupt that voice in your head and say, oh, that's my ego. That's the funny way my ego talks to me. Does that make sense?
So good. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much.
And I feel like that conversation, I know that we have that conversation with people all the time.
Well, let me give you an example.
Especially around like the identity piece, and people like to self-identify with that voice, or they will say to themselves that I'm this, I'm depressed. And I always try to correct them and say, you're experiencing those things. That's not who you actually are. But it's a powerful thing for people. And I think that we all are, I should say for everyone, it's a powerful thing. And I just try to remind people there's always another voice that's always telling you, no, that's not true. You can do it.
Right. Well, let me give you an example, and then maybe you can tag team on this. So I have a girlfriend. I won't name her, but I'm going to force her to listen to this. She's single. She's beautiful. She's gorgeous, all the accolades. And she has this belief that there are no good men out there. And I'm like, well, yeah, this is why you're single. This is why you're not going to find the love of your life, because you don't even believe it's out there. Like she thinks she's going to get murdered if she signs up for Match.com and she's going to attract I said, well, you know what? Don't do it, because you will attract them, because that's what you believe, right?
Totally.
And so I told her, I said, you have to choose different thoughts. Like you've got to believe different things. And she's like, well, how? I go, well, when you feel it creep in, you chose that thought, so just choose a different one. I know that sounds like, so her thing was like, well, how? Why? Like, that's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
And I love what you just said, because you said, and I hope everyone got it out of the gates, you came with fire. You said, if people don't understand that this is a lifelong process, and if people don't start to understand that they can choose different thoughts, if people don't know about this, they just do what's familiar, right?
Yeah, totally.
So what do we say to her? Like, how do I break her so she can find the love of her life?
And Adele, before you answer that, also keep in mind, I want for the listeners, because a lot of times when you tell people that they're choosing a thought, they sometimes get really defensive and upset by that. Like, why would I choose something like that?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So,
let's debunk all that.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. So I so agree with you. So people, this is kind of what we talked about before, I think before we started recording, which is this idea that I talk a lot about with CEOs, and I do a lot of this in my workshops, where it's understanding the law of cause and effect. So let's just start with that. So the law of cause and effect is a universal law. It's an axiom of truth. Okay. It's like the law of gravity. You don't have to believe in gravity to not be floating off your chair. Okay.
Yep.
I say that to people all the time. So this is important because a lot of people, especially people who are very cognitive, they're very analytical, they're like, well, how? Well, why? I don't get it. The law of gravity, just like all the other 7 laws of the universe, like polarity, the law of cause and effect, you don't have to believe them in order for them to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that because this is important. The law of cause and effect is the same. The law of cause and effect says every action has an equal and opposed reaction, meaning every action has an equal, and you do something back happens back. Now, taking it one step further, your actions start at the level of your thoughts. This is imperative. Your thoughts create things. Your thoughts create your reality, because it's your thinking mind that then projects an image, and then that image goes into the reality, and you start to see that in external. So in CBT, what we actually say is, like, something happens, like a situation, you have a thought about that situation, and that's what actually triggers you. Okay, so there are no good men out there. I can't find love, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that thought then creates an emotion. Maybe it's anxiety or overwhelm. That gets projected into your body. So you get a sensation, usually in the pit of your stomach or your chest.
Mm.
And then you go do a behavior. So maybe you avoid, maybe you do something else. And that becomes what I call the vicious cycle in CBT. It's like the way that the model works.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it in this law of cause and effect, it's like you are causing your life by virtue of your thinking. Whether you believe that or not, that's the way the axiom works.
Mm.
So this is really powerful, because I always say to people, this gives you agency. If you don't like the way your life is going, you have complete power and control to shift that narrative, that script in your mind. Now, it's not easy, but it is simple.
Right.
And so there's a distinction. Like, this work is not for the faint of heart. I always say that to people. Like, it is not easy to go out there and go to war with your mindset.
Mm.
Like, and I say go to war, like the shit that we say to ourselves is absurd. And if you talk to other people the way you talk to yourself, you have 0 friends.
Right.
But so we live life like things are happening to us, when really we're the agent, we're the cause.
Mm-hmm.
We've caused it by the virtue of our thinking. So that's the first point that's really important for people to grapple with. Like, and again, this might trigger some people, but I think it's actually good that it triggers people, because if it triggers someone, then something's shifting.
Right.
Your ego just wants to keep you safe and the same. So it doesn't want you to buy into that, because it's the truth. But when you can have this other voice, your higher self, like you said, you're either feeding your ego or your higher self. If you can see, listen, if I can even accept for a moment that I've accepted I've created my reality, like I'm single. And I was the same. I was single. I laugh because I'm getting married in June, but I was single for most of my life. I had a child on my own and everything. And when I really got present to, I created that. I caused that because I had a very deep-rooted belief called an imprint. So it's actually one step deeper than that limiting belief, which is I'm all on my own. Okay. And that developed from my childhood, because when I said 0 to 7, though between those years, my parents had to move and immigrate to Canada from Russia. They had no money, like all immigrants, and they shipped me to go live with my parents in the US, my grandparents, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 3, I developed this subconscious belief that I'm on my own. Okay. Because where are my parents? Now, they didn't do anything wrong. They did what they had to do. But as a kid, you interpret the world based on, you make a meaning out of all of this about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, I went through my whole life. I'm better off on my own. I'm all on my own. It's safer to be on my own. And I was single. When I really went to war with myself and I started to do this inner work, I created a different script. And that different script led me to meet the man of my dreams. None of this is a coincidence. This is the law of cause and effect in action. And so part of it, circling back to your girlfriend, it's like part of it is the desire to want to change. Okay. You can't want change for people if they don't want change for themselves.
That's hard as a coach to get, isn't that?
I know, but it's true. Like people still smoke and people still do all this crazy shit that we know is causal with cancer, and we know, but they do it. And I've always said to people as a coach and a therapist, like I'd have people come to me and say, I really want my wife to quit smoking, or I really want my husband to do this. I said, do they want to? No, but I want them to. But well, that's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So your girlfriend, to that point, for me, I had to hit my own rock bottom and say, like, am I really going to go at life alone here? Is this really the way I want my life to go? And for me, the answer was no.
Right.
And so then I had to go to war with myself and understand that deep rooted imprint of I'm all on my own and I'm safer on my own, actually. And I had to go to war and start to heal that aspect of myself. Okay. So, yeah.
Can I just ask you something really quick? Because I think, just to back up, because I think that's so powerful and I hope everyone caught that. But where people get a lot lost is the awareness is not there.
Yeah.
Like you talked about understanding the imprint. When did that become an understanding or an awareness for you where you were able to actually put some language behind it? Because
without
a lot of times
blaming your parents,
we're limited because we don't have the articulation to actually understand what has happened or what is going on with us.
Totally. That's such a great question. So the work that I teach and the work that I do in the world is a function of my own experiential personal journey. So over the last decade, I've invested, like I say this to my clients all the time, the biggest investment I make is in myself and in my personal growth. So I've always had coaches and mentors, and I've invested so much time and money in that, because you can't, unfortunately, see your own blind spot from your own perspective. You can't solve the problem from the same level it was created, right? So I had to have coaches throughout, especially I would say the last 5 years. I've worked with a lot of different coaches and spiritual leaders and people in the realm of quantum physics and neuroscience. And I was able to do the work on myself, and as a result, teach the work in my own way, like create my own framework around it.
Right.
So part of it is like, even if you're listening to this podcast, part of it is there's something in your awareness that drew you to this podcast. Your subconscious mind is drawing you to this conversation, because this conversation wouldn't be present in your life if you weren't ready.
Right.
And that's what I always say, like, people are only coming to work with me when they're ready. Okay. Because I'm not for everyone. Like, I will dial in on you and we're going to go to war. So if you're not ready, if you're not there, that's okay. But if there's something in this conversation where you're going, wow, yeah, that's me. I can see that there's something limiting me. I don't know what it is, but there is something holding me back. That's step one. Yeah. That is actually awareness. Awareness is saying, my life isn't where I want it to be. Maybe it's around my income. Maybe it's around my relationships or my health. I know that I'm my own. There's some kind of narrative going on. There's some kind of belief system going on. That's step one.
I feel like that step one requires some accountability and responsibility, right? Like, because it's so hard for most people that are not working on themselves. You know, they know that they're stuck in a rut. They know that they're unhappy, but they're blaming all these external things, you know, like, well, it's because my boss doesn't give me enough money at work. It's because I had a kid when I was younger and people are, you know, treating me different, or whatever the case may be. So I think what we have found through coaching is like, and we're very much like you, we've spent so much money on us.
That's why you are where you are in your life, though. It's no coincidence.
And it's totally changed our lives and our perspectives. And when we realize, like, oh, we're struggling financially because of all the shit we do, all of the bad choices we make with money, not our salary, not the economy, not the government, not the taxes.
Not Trump.
Right, not Trump.
And so Janelle just said something too. Like, I think people need to understand that, like, the distortion is the blaming. Like, the behavior is part of, like, you have to find that, why am I doing these things? Because that is going to lead me to an understanding of what's going on.
But then it leads them to beating themselves up, which is what we're talking about. So there's that fine line, I think, that when you're in you're en route to personal development, it's like, how much beating up and responsibility do I take so I'm not ready to kill myself? And then how much do I actually, so like, and I know you have so much to say.